Hi all, I have another amazing game of Leela to show you. This is Leela ID 523. So she's evolving every day with self-learning, and it's fascinating what happens. Now, this game was submitted by Gallagher. The time control is 300 plus 3, which I think is 5-minute time control with 3-second increments. So quite a decent time control here. Leela with a 1080 graphics card. That's a really cool one. A 1080, pardon me, not 108. A 1080 graphics card. Wasp, yeah, it's a rank 50 engine, or rank 30 actually. It's around there. A Wasp engine with 4-core i7. Okay, so let's look at the game now. D4 from Leela. We have D5, Bishop G5, and this is the final book move given to both. So F6. Now this is a bit curious. F6 weakens this diagonal potentially. Now, Bishop H4 is a popular move, but you know, looking at this, Black has a really quirky move, Knight H6, which I've used myself with Black with good effect. Especially, I've won tons of bullet games in this against someone who's persisting like this with H5. Yeah, you can play like this and trap the bishop potentially. So this is interesting. Black can get an advantage there. Now, so this is a fascinating position. Pardon me. So Bishop H4, although popular, isn't so hot. Bishop F4 might run into E5 later. Bishop E3 blocks in this pawn. Bishop C1 seems a bit weird, but maybe is a good move as well, just getting out of the way. But Bishop D2 strikes me, if we treat this as a reverse French defense, where White wants to play for C4 like you would in the French defense, that this is like was waiting move in reverse. It has a good logic to safeguard the diagonal against checks, and also sometimes to avoid the exchange of queens. So Bishop D2 might be really one of the best moves in a way. Black plays Knight C6 as an example of E5 here, just to try and disprove Bishop D2. Then taking, and then E4 seems strong to me. For example, taking here, there's a check, and then we can win E5 with a nice advantage. This seems quite a decent position here. If Black plays Knight F6, ED, this position, you can see that with the bishop on D2, there's no exchange of queens, so there's more tension in the position. And okay, Knight D4 seems like a pain. White can play Queen E3 here. This position seems at least okay. Equal prospects. So we see actually E3. So it looks like a reverse French defense. Knight F3, and in fact, Black is provoked to play E4. And this, of course, weakens F4, and now the retreat Knight G1. It's fine if the knight can come back with a vengeance to F4. So this might seem weird. Bishop E6, as though there's an interest in stopping C4. If we look, if C4 isn't stopped, then this diagonal can be exposed sometimes. So C4, this position, for example, should be quite nice for White as kind of a reverse French defense. So anyway, on Knight G1 we have Bishop E6, but B3 now. Yeah, with the bishop on D2, this check isn't such an issue, which means C4 can be played for here, and it is. Knight G E7. Black didn't, it doesn't look nice to give White an extra pawn coming to the center and threaten D5. So Knight G7, Knight C3. Now Black castles queenside. Now sometimes one has to be very, very careful when playing White against a French defense with Black when casting queenside in some lines, because Black's intention sometimes is not just to take on D5 to open up a C file. Black's intention is sometimes to actually play this. This is very, very dangerous. Players with White sometimes against the French defense have underestimated C4 with just a kingside attack on their queenside castled king. Just before we go into that, if Black had played D takes here, this position, White's got that nice B file in any case. And if we follow this through, for example, here the strongest move might actually be Knight D5, just offering a pawn sack to get the light square bishop. And we can see that white's position is, it's very, very dangerous for black, this kind of scenario. White has a big advantage there. It's a lot of compensation on the B and C files. Once the rooks start connecting, there's a vicious attack. There's things like queen a4. There's tons of potential for white in this position. So that's very interesting. I mean, one question, I guess, is why not c5 immediately? I mean, maybe there was a concern about knight b4. So a3 stops knight b4, but yeah, there's a dual idea of c takes or c5, which one has to watch out for when playing against the French defense. So here it seems as though black has castled into a pawn storm after c5, even though white's played not got many pieces developed. It's the pawns here which are the soul of chess, as Fuzhou once said, which can spearhead an attack. Knight ge2, h5. We have b4. There's natural possibilities now of the queen coming to a4 and b5, and then trying to open with c6 later, the b file. It's a very, very natural looking attack, this, how it's evolving now. Very little counterplay. So, you know, it wouldn't matter if the opponent was a gigantic mainframe computer calculating, you know, billions of positions a second. This particular position is fully insulated with the pawns, you know, protecting the white pieces as well as spearheading a natural-looking attack. Rook b1, king a8, b5. So white's got a really natural-looking pawn storm here. And knight a2 seems like a very beautiful continuation to make use of the b4 square. You can see that white's pawns are just heading towards the black king here. So we see knight ec3 here, knight h4. Does seem to be an Achilles heel on g2 though, because black's pawns also look this way in the position, but that's kind of ignored here. Knight b4. Now we have queen c8. Just to give you an idea, c6 does seem to be a major concern. For example, rook g8, c6. This position is nasty. b6, for example, and then knight b5 threatening mate. You can see that the full horror here. White can actually smash through with knight takes and bishop takes, smashing through. So if we get the queen and knight combination, of course we're mating in a trivial manner. So this is really dangerous. King b8 trying to defend, again trying to renew the mate threat. It looks devastating. If we get this kind of position, it looks absolutely devastating. There's things like bishop b5 now. So even though the queen might be stuck there, there's bishop b5 picking up the queen, and it's going to be end of game for black. This is just showing some of the dangers for black. So queen c8 in advance of c6. Now, very, very nice move, which it seems my conventional engines have trouble finding this, but eventually do think this is a great move. It's provoking a key weakness, b6. The idea is not queen a6 or anything, just to be happy with b6 and celebrate the newfound weaknesses on the light squares. We have queen e6 here. On, say, g5, then celebrating c6 immediately like this is just wonderful. The other knight can come in to b4 to go to a6, and then this is just devastating. Check here, c takes. And the queen has to defend a7, so the queen has to give herself up. White can just win in style like this. Absolutely crushing. So, yeah, knight c6 is like a major concern, which is trying to be addressed here. But now knight a6, threatening knight takes c7 check. The knight pops back, playing with black. Here, it seems a5 looks another committal pawn move. It does look as though black's in big trouble and can't really extricate from this position. I think extricate is the right word. Instead goes pawn hunting here. Let's just put all the pieces away from the king. Yeah, I'm sure the king's fine by itself. With the rook, queen and two knights and bishop pointing at it. I'm sure the king's going to be fine. Yeah, so knight e2, which unveils bishop takes a5, as well as also saying you can have this pawn, but I'll have rook g1 on top of that, just for my cherry on top of the cake here. So black does actually take on g2. So the queen's in Siberia, as we've seen in another amusing game. The one prospect is this defensive diagonal potentially, if given a chance, might crawl back somewhere. But we have got now 1, 2, 3, 4 attacking pieces. All of these pieces not doing anything. In fact, they're on the first rank. Yeah, most of the pieces are on the first rank. So the action scene is created here for bishop takes a5. Leela speeds up the action scenes where king safety is at stake. King b7 is played. This is already pretty dismal. If takes, queen takes a5. This is just dismal, absolutely dismal. This threatens things like knight c6 just to open up the rook now and stops the king escaping. So it locks the king in for knight c6. So say c6. This is crushing. This is crushing as well. Yeah, it's a horror show for king safety. So we have king b7, c takes. C takes. You might think, well, hang on, black's got a defensive point here. If, by the way, queen d6, then that leaves the c5 square to be used, which is a total nightmare as well. For example, here threatening queen a8, checkmate. So let's run with c takes b6. So has black got a problem here? What does Leela play in this position? If I give you 5 seconds to pause the video. So white play attacking player test. Okay, bishop takes b6. Yeah, this is really strong, as you might think, because of now knight c5 threatening nasties like queen a6. So we have queen b8. So you might think, well, hang on, that is the defensive diagonal made use of, mentioned earlier. So queen's coming back to be relevant. Right. The thing is, the queen's also a tactical target now herself. After check, white plays queen takes f6, not only threatening the rook, but also threatening knight a6, forking queen and king. This limits black's choices quite severely. Unless one thinks there's a way of trapping the white queen. But queen b6 is played just to address the immediate concern, just to put it on the board. Yeah, knight a6 check is not entirely pleasant. So this seems sensible, as though there might be some aspiration to trap the queen. But in fact, check's played first. Taking is also okay, but check is played first to inflict maximum damage. We have queen d8. I mean, king d8 is equally bad. I mean, in a way, or worse. Queen takes. There's no problem there for white. White's actually just like the exchange up there. But queen d6 is played, which allows b6 check, and then taking the rook. So white's the exchange up. Unless the queen's getting trapped, queen's immediately got a return. Not immediately, because of the knight, to be fair, is a liability potentially. But let's see what happens. Knight f5. We have king d2, which means actually support's going to be given to that knight now with rook c1, rook gc1. Bishop g7. Leela's got squares for the queen. The queen isn't quite trapped here. If queen e7, there's trouble over here, by the way. b7, for example, like this. This is trouble for the king. You can clearly see now that there's action over here, which it doesn't matter about the queen's limited prospects. The action over there wins the day. So the queen's not really getting trapped here after king d2, because this connects up the rooks, lovely, connecting up the rooks for rook gc1, very lovely attacking position again. So bishop g7, queen g8. We have here bishop d7. Okay, that hits the queen. The queen has got another square though, always got enough squares. Just one square is enough. And this threatens things like rook takes g6 potentially. Now here, rook f8 was played. And actually, Leela doesn't indulge anymore, just cashes out the position, just takes on d7. Takes on d7, exchange up, thanks very much. Rook takes g6. Big pass pawn over here, in fact 2 connected pass pawns over here. This looks totally winning without too much controversy. Pushing the pawn, forcing that. Knight f4 hitting d5. Knight d6. We have now rook h6 hitting, well, threatening rook takes, and then b8 queening, also indirectly defending because of rook h7 things as well. Bishop g7, rook h7. Black's totally overloaded. It's over. It's totally over. Black resigned here. Yeah, basically. or adjudicated. It's just totally lost. It's a rook down. So there are some ideas in this game. Leela knows how to play the French defence in reverse, basically, which is something I quite enjoyed for quite a few weeks, actually, on my own blitz games, playing the French defence in reverse. But black made a classic mistake of not just expecting CD, not underestimating C5. This is a very natural pawn storm, extremely natural, extremely difficult to defend. Things weren't really helped getting this pawn over here. The defensive capability was already pretty bad. It was beyond repair already. The piece sacrifice on b6 was a key move, just to keep the attack raging on, basically. So a very, very nice attacking game. Reverse French defense attack game example, in a way. Comments, questions, likes, shares, appreciated. Thanks very much.